BookTube, it's Eleanor here and it's time for my January TBR. So it's the start of a new year, it's the start of some new ideas on how I'm going to be formatting my TBR for the year, and so this is month one and I'm going to give it a good go. I'm not going to talk about the books that I'm reading for the biannual bibliothon in much detail. If you've watched my biannual bibliothon TBR, you'll know that that's running between the 3rd and the 9th of January, and I've picked 7 books for those challenges. They do fall into some of the categories for the month because I think that works best, so I will be mentioning some of them briefly, but let's talk about the different books that I'm going to read. So what I've done is I've separated my TBR this year into buddy reads, books that I have to read for review, and then challenges I'm setting myself, and obviously readathon books. So the buddy reads that I'm going to be doing this month. The first buddy read that I'm doing is myself and Nicole from Dorker Brain plan on completing the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. I'm not sure if Nicole's read both books 1 and 2 or whether she's just read book 1, but I'm going to be rereading book 1, which is A Discovery of Witches, for one of the challenges in the biannual bibliothon, and then continuing on to read the next 2 in the trilogy to complete it, with the 3rd book being the Book of Life, which I own in physical copy. The other 2 books, A Discovery of Witches and Shadow of Night, I both own on Kindle, so that will also tick off my Kindle challenge for this month. The second buddy read that I'm going to be reading in January is with the lovely Lydia from Something Like Lydia, and that is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielowski. I've had this for a long time and I've wanted to read it but never got to it, and I've always been a bit intimidated and scared, and I think Lydia felt similar, so we thought maybe we would be able to encourage each other. And this will also double up as the book that I'm scared of, which is one of my challenges for the month, is to read a book that I'm scared or intimidated by, so this will double up for that one. The next buddy read is June by Frank Herbert, which I will be reading with the lovely Patty from I Smell Books. Her front cover of this is much nicer than mine, which frankly looks a bit creepy, but yeah, it's an old mass market paperback and we will be reading this together, and this will double up as one of the books from my 2 sci-fi and fantasy reads that I'm going to try and read for the month. Next up is my books that I need to review this month. I've decided I'm going to review 20 Questions for Gloria. This is an ARC and it is by Martin Bedford. This comes out in February, so I thought if I read it in January I can read and review it and let you know a bit more about it in case it's something that might interest you. I believe it's about a girl, I think it's a YA story about a girl who meets a boy in her class one day, a new boy. Something happens, they both disappear but only one comes back, and we are hearing sort of the police interview or that side of it from the person that comes back. So now on to the challenges that I've set myself that I'm going to try and form my TBRs every month. The first is to try and read a trilogy. I've ticked that off with the All Souls trilogy that I'm going to be reading this month. The next is to read a book that you're scared of, and as I mentioned, I'm going to be reading House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielowski. My next challenge is that I want to try and read at least one non-fiction every month, and I'm going to be reading Mind Change by Susan Greenfield. I picked this up 2 years ago, I believe, at the Cheltenham Book Festival when I went to watch a talk by Susan Greenfield. This is Susan Greenfield's delve into the way that social media is affecting our brains and the way that we do things, and it sounded really interesting and I'm really excited to finally get to this one. The next challenge I'm doing every month is to try and read 2 science fiction and fantasy. I'm going to be reading June with Patty from I Smell Books, and I've also picked up Midnight Crossroad by Charlene Harris. Charlene Harris wrote the Suki Stackhouse books, which I absolutely adored, and this is the first book in a new series, or a newish series. I think this has been out for a while now. It's about sort of a town that's pretty deserted, not many people live there, but there's something strange and eerie, paranormal possibly going on in the town, so I'm excited to get this one finally. The next challenge is to read 2 YA contemporary books every month, and if you've watched my biannual bibliothon TBR, you'll know that I'm going to be reading Memoirs of a Teenage Amnesiac by Gabrielle Zevin and Unbecoming by Jenny Downham, so they will be my 2 YA contemporary picks for the month. My 2 general YA books for the month, which I'm going to be trying to read, are also on my TBR for the biannual bibliothon, and they are Lorelei by Laura Dockrell and Illumini by Amy Kaufman and Jay Christoph. My next challenge is to try and read 2 adult books, and one of them again is on my TBR for the biannual bibliothon, and that is Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen. And then one I haven't spoken about, I'm going to be picking up Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. I'm really intrigued by this, and I think the cover's beautiful. I've wanted to read some more Toni Morrison for a while, and so I decided that this is going to be the one that I pick up. I also set the challenge to read at least one Kindle book or one book off my Kindle each month. I'm going to be reading both The Discovery of Witches and A Shadow of Night, which are the first 2 books in the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness on my Kindle, so that will fulfill that challenge. So the only thing left to do for my TBR is to pick out my BookTuber Recommends pick for the month. If you've seen my BookTuber Recommends creation telling you about who's picked what and what books are in there, you'll know what I'm picking from. But let's get the jar and give it a go. Here's my jar, shaking it up, and I'm going to pick one book out for my January TBR, and I'm going to pick this one. And so the book that I have picked out, which you probably can't see very well, is Swords Point by Ellen Kushner, which was recommended to me by Victoria Harris of BookTube channel of the same name, who is brilliant, so definitely check her out. She has recommended this one to me. She's talked about it a lot on her channel. It is blurbed by George R.R. Martin. It said, Swords Point is an unforgettable opening and just gets better from there. So I'm really excited to give this one a go, and thank you to her for recommending it. So that is my ridiculously huge TBR for January. I think I've managed to sort of tailor it so that actually there's not too many books on there. They are sort of overlapping into different categories, and I'm really excited for all of them. I've got a good cross section. I'm excited about this new format of doing my TBRs because it's sort of given me a cross section of books, so I've always got something fun to pick from. And as I said in that original TBR plans for 2016 video, I really do need a TBR because otherwise I just stand in front of my shelves and procrastinate for days and then just end up not reading. So setting myself a TBR really helps. So that's it, and let me know if you've read any of these, which ones you would start with, and what you're reading this month. And I look forward to speaking to you soon. Happy New Year, happy January. Bye for now, BookTube.